This is the farmhouse where I grew up, where my father grew up, where my grandfather grew up, where my great-grandfather grew up. The main house was built in 1860. We got electricity in 1943 with the Rural Electrification Act. And now what I am doing is I'm removing the majority of the 1960 updates and reverting the era back to somewhere between 1920 and 1950. I'm going to show you each room in the order that I did them years ago. While I am no more of a carpenter or a designer than any member of my family has ever been, I'm doing it to suit me and my tastes. In Book 4, we're going to continue with the mudroom and how we converted it from a woodshed to conditioned space. Now, if you notice the circle in this first image, that shows a roof peak or an outline of a roof. That is the only image that I have that I believe was the woodshed that somebody lived in way back when, and then the building was turned and slid into position against the main house where it became our woodshed. And out back I find some stones that were probably the foundation where it sat on it. And inside the mudroom, in the corner, you can see the original ochre painted floor and the telltale sign of where the sink drain was, because there is a tin can nailed over the hole. And there was a piece of oilcloth nailed between two of the 2x4s on the wall where we believe the sink was. And here you can get a closer look at it, and you can see where water was splashed on it and it ran down. So I'm pretty sure that's where the sink was way back in the day. So to start the rebuild, we had to do something with that back door, or the door from the outside into the mudroom. In a bad snowstorm, you would actually get snow coming into the woodshed. Here I am putting a level pressure treated sill in place of the rotted sill that was there, that was not anywhere near level. And here you can see just how far it was out of level. And with the new door slid into place, I am screwing the frame into the wall. And here you can see the style of door we chose from the outside and the inside. And with the door out of the way, I started scraping the multiple layers of vinyl flooring off the floor. Some of it was vinyl, some of it was linoleum. There was multiple layers right in front of the door. And when we got that all scraped off, you can see that the floor didn't look so good. The repeated rain and snow had damaged the floor. Now, this particular door did not come with a vinyl screen door, but I got one and made it fit. And this is what it looks like from the outside and the inside. And if you look really close in between the 2x4s of this wall, you can see where somebody had put some yellow paint on. And if you look really close, you can see where somebody was doodling with a pencil way back in the day. Next, I turned my attention to the only window in the mudroom. And as you can see, it's hanging at an angle. So the only thing to do is put a proper level base for the new vinyl window to be installed. And here is the nice new vinyl level window from the inside and the outside. Next was to remove the plywood ceiling, and here I'm starting to pull it down from the rafters. And here you can see how they drilled holes in the beams and ran the wiring sometime after 1943 when we got electricity. And here is a close-up of the running of the wires. So here you can see I began running my own wires because we needed a lot more sockets in the room than the single one that was originally put in. And if you notice the yellow Romex that I was putting in, the 12 gauge stuff, I drilled holes very close to the ceiling to put the wires in instead of in the middle of the beams. And then as we started to pull more of the vinyl floor up, we noticed a problem where the woodshed, when it was slid against the house and they cut the end off to mate up with the house, they didn't do a really good job. As you can see in the close-up picture, that green is grass. You can look right outside. So I cut a thin sliver of 2x4 and put it in the hole, and then covered the whole thing up with gallons of that MH Ready patch that you see on the floor. So then I insulated the walls with rigid polyisocyanurate insulation with the aluminum foil as a heat reflector. And the siding that I'm putting on, I wanted to duplicate the siding that was on the other walls, but I found out you cannot buy tongue and groove pine that isn't V-grooved. So I got some shiplap and put that on, and it looks just like the old tongue and groove. And here's the end wall nearly done putting up the shiplap. Now on the opposite end of the mudroom, that wall that you see backs up against the annex, so it did not need to be insulated. So I'm building a little cupboard. I've got it framed out right there. And there's my cupboard fully assembled. It was a simple box with plywood. And then I got the idea to reproduce the original ochre color and paint the cabinet that color. And here's the storage cabinet fully finished. And with some heavy-duty shelf adjusters and some 3/4 plywood, it didn't take long to fill it to the brim with stuff. Now this wall you see here is the old outside of the house, where the woodshed was butted against the house. And from scraping paint, I found that it was originally red. And the story goes that red paint was the cheapest, so it was put on the back side of the house. But on the front of the house, the money side, they paid for a white or a cream or whatever they happened to be using. In this case, our original house was cream colored. So that's why the back side was red, and I matched the color, and that's what I painted it. And if you're interested, that is Benjamin Moore Spanish Red Aura. And here you can see where we painted the walls Valspar Duramax Antique, and I'm starting to put up the trim around the door. And here you can see an unhappy SO painting the wall that actually was the floor from the other side of the wall that is my lab now. If you go back to the previous book, it'll explain that. And when she got over being annoyed, she finished painting that wall, and now you can see what it looked like. And that is how we converted the room into something that's now usable from an old woodshed.